The flood was not an act of anger, it was an act of control. Across cultures, continents, and forgotten civilizations, the same event appears again and again. A global deluge that erased an entire age of humanity. Sumer, Babylon, Egypt, the Bible, India, Mesoamerica. Different names, same memory. The flood did not come because humanity sinned. It came because humanity remembered too much. Before the flood, there was the First Age, a time when humans lived alongside beings described as gods, watchers, or architects. These entities were not symbolic. They ruled directly. They taught humanity mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and knowledge that bent the laws of nature. Humans were not meant to be equals. They were meant to be workers. But something went wrong. Ancient texts describe a world where humans became aware of their true potential. They began to build cities that rivaled the gods. They learned how to manipulate sound, stone, energy, and even life itself. The Book of Enoch speaks of forbidden knowledge given by the Watchers. Sumerian tablets describe divine secrets stolen from the gods. Genesis tells of beings who crossed boundaries and created hybrid bloodlines. The problem was not violence. The problem was awakening. The flood was not a punishment. It was a reset. A controlled collapse designed to erase technology, bloodlines, and memory. Water was chosen for a reason. Fire destroys bodies. Water destroys history. Libraries dissolve. Stone cities sink. Machines corrode. Maps vanish. Only fragments survive. The gods knew they could not simply destroy humanity. Humanity was necessary, but it had to forget. So the world was drowned, not completely, but precisely. Enough to wipe out the First Age cities. Enough to scatter survivors. Enough to fracture language and culture. The survivors were carefully chosen. Noah, Ziusudra, Utnapishtim, different names, same role. They were not heroes, they were seed carriers. Carriers of a limited version of knowledge, enough to rebuild civilization, but never enough to challenge the gods again. After the flood, something changed. The gods withdrew, no longer walking openly among humans, no longer ruling directly. They became distant, silent, mythological. The flood marked the moment when humanity was downgraded. Lifespan shortened, knowledge restricted, memory erased. The world after the flood was safer, not for humans, but for the gods. Because a humanity that remembers its origin is dangerous. The flood was necessary because the First Age could not be allowed to return. But memory is resilient, and fragments survived. That is why forbidden texts exist. That is why ancient structures defy explanation. That is why the same story appears everywhere. The flood was not the end. It was a pause, and pauses can end.